Good morning, everybody, and happy Tuesday. I didn't put up a video yesterday, not because I forgot, but because it was Memorial Day and I figured everybody would be busy with their family celebrating. So I'm coming to you today. We are working on book number 34, which is Season of the Sandstorms. And if you remember from last week, so Jack and Annie are learning how to use magic themselves. So Merlin is kind of trying to see if they're able to do magic on their own. And in order to test that, what he's done is Teddy and Kathleen gave them a book of rhymes, 10 rhymes that magical rhymes that they can use on their journeys. And if they use them smart and they're able to solve their problems, then they may be able to become magicians themselves. So last week, Jack and Annie went to a real place, back in time, but a real place called Venice, Italy, and they solved a mystery. So this week, we are in Season of the Sandstorms, and they are going to another real place, again, back in time, but it's called Baghdad, which is over in Asia. So let's get started with our vocabulary. So our vocabulary for this week, as you can see, the first word is bizarre. This word bizarre sounds like another word, bizarre. The word that you might know is like weird or strange, but this bizarre, spelled with a double A, I didn't mess that up, that's really how it's spelled, is basically like kind of like an outdoor farmer's market type thing. We call them kind of like markets over here, but a bazaar is basically just like that. It's out in the open air. People have tables and tents set up over the tables while they sell products. And that's kind of what a bazaar is. The next word on our list is carriage. A carriage is something that was used a long time ago. It was basically like kind of like a wagon, but usually it has like a cover or a top, and it would be pulled by horses or camels or some other kind of animal, and it had wheels, and it was how people would get around. The next word is chilly. Now, chilly is a word that you probably are like, well, I know what chilly means. Chilly means cold, which is true, but chilly can also mean feeling cold towards somebody. So you might feel kind of irritated or mad at somebody, and you might give them like a chilly look or something. So chilly can mean in a way that you feel towards somebody. The next word is humble. Humble means to kind of not be bragging about things. So, if somebody says, oh, hey, good job with that. Being humble, you just say like, oh, thank you. You're not like, yeah, I am the best. Leather. Leather is basically a type of fabric or material that's made out of the skin of an animal, and they take the animal skin and do something to it, and it becomes leather. A lot of clothing is made out of leather, and like backpacks and things like that can be. Oasis. Oasis is a funny word. Again, it's not spelled wrong. Oasis basically is like, particularly in a desert, it might be an area of the desert that's particularly lush. So maybe there's like a little underground spring or something where water comes out, and then they have like some trees and bushes and other things like that. And then the last word is wisely. Wisely means to do something in a smart way. So if you do something wisely, it means you're thinking about it and you're making a smart choice. So our book this week is 10 chapters. Because we didn't do one yesterday, I think I'm actually going to keep this to 2 chapters a day anyway. So I'll do 5 videos, and you can either watch them through Saturday, you can double them up or whatever, but just because these chapters are pretty long and I don't want to make these like super crazy long videos. So, okay, and this one starts with another little poem. Away, for we are ready to a man. Our camels sniff the evening and are glad. Lead on, O master of the caravan. Lead on, the merchant princess of Baghdad. And that was written by James Elroy Flecker. Chapter 1, The Golden Age. Jack put his math homework aside. He opened the drawer beside his bed and pulled out a small handmade book. For the 100th time, he stared at the title and the cover. 10 Magic Rhymes for Annie and Jack from Teddy and Kathleen. For weeks now, Jack had kept the book hidden in his drawer, wondering when he and Annie would be able to use the magic again. The book's 10 rhymes were to be used on 4 missions, and each rhyme could be used only once. Jack and Annie had already used 2 rhymes on their mission to Venice, Italy. Jack! Annie rushed into Jack's room. Her eyes were shining. Bring the book and let's go. Where? Said Jack. You know where. Let's go, Annie called as she ran downstairs. He quickly put on Teddy and Kathleen's book into his backpack, pulled on a jacket, and took off down the stairs. Annie was already on the front porch. Hurry, she cried. Wait, how do you know it's there? He asked. Because I saw it, Annie said. She hurried down the porch steps and crossed the yard. You saw it? You actually saw it? Jack yelled. Yes, Annie yelled back. When? Shouted Jack. Just now, said Annie. I was walking home from the library and I had this feeling, so I went and looked. It's waiting for us. They raced into the Frog Creek woods. They ran between the budding trees over the fresh green moss of early spring until they came to the tallest oak. See, said Annie. Yeah, said Jack. He stared up at the magic tree house. Its rope ladder dangled above the mossy ground. Annie started climbing up. Jack followed. When they got inside, he pulled off his backpack. Look, a book and a letter, Annie said. She picked up a folded letter from the floor, and Jack picked up a book with a golden cover. Baghdad, Jack said. He showed the book to Annie. The title was The Golden Age of Baghdad. A golden age, said Annie. That sounds cool. Let's go. Wait, we should read the letter first, said Jack. Right, said Annie. She unfolded the paper. Merlin's handwriting, she said. She read aloud. Dear Jack and Annie of Frog Creek, your mission is to journey to Baghdad of long ago and help the Caliph spread wisdom to the world. To succeed, you must be humble and use your magic wisely. Follow these. Wait, what's a Caliph? Said Jack. And what's Merlin mean? Spread wisdom to the world. That's a big responsibility. I don't know, said Annie. Let me finish reading. Follow these instructions. Ride a ship of the desert on a cold, starry night. Ride through the dust and hot morning light. Find a horse on a dome, the one who sees all, in the heart of the city, behind the third wall. Beneath birds who sing, in the room of the tree, greet a friend you once knew and a new friend to be. Remember that life is full of surprises. Return to the treehouse before the moon rises. M. This sounds easy, said Annie. No, it doesn't, said Jack. All those instructions are mysterious, and we don't know what any of them mean. Well, we'll find out when we get there, said Annie. But first we have to get there, so make the wish. Okay, said Jack. He pointed to the cover. I wish we could go to the golden age of Baghdad, he said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. Nowhere. Jack felt hot. He opened his eyes to see burning sunlight flooding the treehouse. He and Annie were wearing long robes tied with a cord. They had white cloths on their heads and pointy slip-on shoes. Jack's backpack was a leather bag. We look like characters in the book Aunt Mary gave us, said Annie. Tales from the Arabian Nights. Yeah, like Aladdin and Ali Baba, said Jack. Shading their eyes from the bright sun, they squinted out the window. They landed on the spiky crown of a palm tree. It was the tallest one in a cluster of palm trees. Thorny shrubs and sparse green grass grew under the trees. A small spring bubbled up from the ground. Surrounding the clump of trees was miles of scorching sand. This doesn't look like a golden age, said Annie. Yeah, where's Baghdad? Said Jack. He picked up the book and opened it to the first page, and he read, From 762 AD to 1258 AD, the Arab world had a golden age. During that time, a ruler, known as a caliph, governed the empire and stretched for thousands of miles. The capital of the Arab Empire was the city of Baghdad, an important center for learning and trade. Jack looked up. So the caliph is a ruler, he said, and he probably lives in Baghdad. Yeah, but how are we getting there, said Annie. Patience, said Jack. Remember on the last mission, we learned we have to do things in order, one at a time. So he read the first part of the instructions. Ride a ship of the desert on a cold, starry night. Ride through the dust and the hot morning light. I wonder what a ship of the desert is, said Jack, looking up. What do you guys think a ship of the desert might be? What might a ship of the desert be? Think about it. Whatever it is, said Annie, I'm sure we'll find it. We could just sit here and keep an eye out for a big boat, or what, said Jack. Or we could use one of Teddy and Kathleen's rhymes. Not yet, said Jack. Merlin said to use them wisely, and we only just got here. We used 2 rhymes on our last mission, and we only have 8 left to develop. Okay, said Annie. We can use a rhyme when there's absolutely nothing else left to do, right? Right, said Jack. So, said Annie, what do you think we should do? Start walking, said Jack. Where, said Annie. Which way is Baghdad? Jack looked out the window. Beyond the palm trees there was nothing but sand and sky. In the distance were more lonely dunes. The desert was eerily silent. Ooh, eerily, there's that word from last week. We could, but Jack couldn't think of anything they could do. We could look in the rhyme book, he said. He pulled out the book of magic rhymes. They read down the table of contents. Make a stone come alive, read Annie. Well, we did that one already, so we can't do it again. It wouldn't help anyway, said Jack. He looked at the other ones. Bend iron. Well, we've done that too. Turn into ducks, Annie said, and she looked at Jack. No, Jack said. Mend what cannot be mended, read Annie. Nothing needs mending. How about this one, said Annie. Make helpers appear out of nowhere. Well, said Jack, maybe. It's perfect, said Annie. This is where we are, nowhere, and we could use some help. Okay, said Jack. I'll read the line Teddy wrote, and you read Kathleen's rhyme in the Selkie language. Okay, said Annie. She turned to the page with the rhyme and held out the book. Jack read from aloud in a clear voice. From far beyond said helpers here. Then Annie read, ha he by, ha he kier. The second that Annie finished, wind gusted in from the desert, blowing a cloud of sand in the window. The wind shook the palm trees, and sand blew in Annie's eyes. Ow, she said. Get back, said Jack. They jumped away from the window, pressed themselves against the wall, and covered their face. Gritty sand kept blowing into the treehouse. I think it's a sandstorm, said Jack. The hot sand piled in drifts all over the floor. Then the wind died as quickly as it started, and the palm trees stopped shaking. They looked out the window. The air was thick with grainy dust, making it hard to see, but the sand was still. I think it might be over, said Annie. I hope, said Jack. How come our magic rhyme caused a sandstorm instead of sending help? Dunno, said Annie. Maybe we said it wrong. Jack brushed the sand off their book and looked up sandstorms. He read, the season of the sandstorms begins in the desert in mid-February and continues all spring. Winds can blow up to 40 miles per hour. Sandstorms can easily cause travelers to lose their way in the desert. I don't understand, said Jack. We don't need to lose the way. We need to find the way. Just then the sound of bells came from outside. They looked out the window, and through the haze they saw 4 riders perched high on the humps of camels. They wore brightly colored robes, and behind them there were about a dozen more camels, tied head to tail and loaded with saddlebags. As the camels swung from side to side, the bells on their necks tinkled. Annie grinned. Helpers, she said. And that's where we're going to stop for today. All right, so I will actually, hold on a second. You know, we're going to actually do another chapter. Chapter 3, Mamoon. Annie stuck her head out the window. Hey, she called. Shh, said Jack. Don't let them see us up here. It's too hard to explain the treehouse. Let's just go down. Good point, said Annie. She handed over Merlin's letter to Jack and went down the ladder. He put everything into his bag and then slung it across his shoulder and climbed down. When he got to the ground, Jack twisted the rope ladder behind the tree trunk so it wouldn't be noticed. Okay, he said to Annie. Hey, Annie called, waving again, and then they stepped out into the open. The riders headed towards the palm trees. The man in the lead made his camel kneel and climbed off. He wore a long white robe and had a black beard and dark, stern eyes. Who are you? He said, unsmiling. Where are you from? I'm Annie, and this is my brother Jack, said Annie. We're on our way home from a place called... Our home is far away in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania. I've not heard of such a place, said the man. How did you come to be here in the desert? Jack didn't know how to answer. We were riding with our family, said Annie. We stopped here to rest, and my brother and I took a nap behind the tree. When we woke up, everyone was gone. They left us by mistake because, okay, we have a really big family and... Annie, said Jack. She was saying too much. The man looked concerned. Why have they not come back for you? He said. I hope they have not been attacked by bandits. Are there bandits? Said Jack. There are many prowling the desert, said the man. Jack looked anxiously around. This is why one must always travel with others, he said. I hope your family is safe and will return for you. Excuse me, said Annie. Who are you and how did you happen to be here? I'm a merchant, the man said. My caravan was traveling from the west when we were surprised by a sandstorm. It seemed to come from nowhere, but it brought us to this oasis. We will rest and water our animals when the sun goes down, and in the cool of the night we will travel to Baghdad. The caravan leader walked to his men and spoke to them. They got off their camels and started to take off the saddlebags. Annie looked at Jack. See, she said, our magic did work. The sandstorm was magic. It brought them here on their way to Baghdad. But how is it going to help? How can we get them to help us, said Jack. Well, Merlin said we should be humble, so let's offer to help them, said Annie. She walked to the caravan leader, who was filling a bucket with water. Excuse me, said Annie. We wondered if we could help you. The man gave her a smile. Thank you, he said. If you could gather dates, it would be most appreciated. My men are hungry. He handed Annie 2 large baskets. No problem, said Annie. We can do that. She gave the baskets to Jack and then asked, What is a date? We're supposed to get some. I'll look it up, said Jack. With his back to them, he pulled out the research book and read, Dates are known as the fruit of the desert. They hang in bunches from date palms. People gather dates by shaking the trunk of the tree. Not only are dates an important food, but the wood and leaves of the palm are used to make... All right, got it, said Annie. Let's shake some trees. Jack put the book away and looked around. For the first time, he noticed bunches of brown fruit hanging from the tree. He grabbed hold of the nearest tree trunk, Annie grabbed the other side, and together they shook it until dates began falling. In the desert heat, they went from one tree to another, shaking each one and gathering the dates that fell. By the time they filled their baskets, the trees were casting shadows over the oasis. Tired and sweaty, they carried their heavy baskets back to the leader, who was boiling water over a fire. Thank you, he said. You're welcome, said Annie. What else? You should rest now, he said. Would you like to have tea with us? Sure, said Annie. By the way, what's your name? My name is very long, said the man, but you can call me Mamoon. While their camels grazed, Mamoon and his men sat on a woolen rug spread over the grass. They shared dates and tea with Jack and Annie. The dark, plump fruit was sweet and chewy. The tea was strong but good. In the fiery glow of the setting sun, Jack watched the camels. He thought they looked funny. They had knobby knees, big clumsy feet, and little ears that twitched. Some smacked their droopy lips as they drank water, and others gobbled down whole branches of thorn bushes without chewing. Don't the thorns hurt their throat? He asked. No, said the caravan leader. Their mouths are tough. They can eat anything. Sticks, bones, even our tent and saddlebag if we let them, said a young camel rider. What's in your bags? Annie asked. Our bags are filled with goods from Greece, Turkey, and Syria, said Mamoon. We have many things, jewels, beads, precious spices, cinnamon, pepper, vanilla. We're taking everything to Baghdad to sell. We have to go to Baghdad too, said Annie. We're supposed to meet with the Caliph. The riders chuckled like they thought Annie was joking. Mamoon did not laugh, though. Your family is to meet with the Caliph, he said. No, said Annie. Just Jack and I. We have to help spread wisdom to the world. Annie, said Jack. The riders laughed again. What's funny? Asked Annie. The Caliph does not meet with children, said the man. He is the most powerful, important person in the world. Ooh, said Annie, frowning. Jack looked worried, too. Mamoon looked at them. Night will be upon us, he said. Since your family has not returned, would you like to go with us to Baghdad? You've journeyed by camel this far. I trust you can ride the camels the rest of the way. Sure, said Annie. We love camels. We do, thought Jack. Good. We love our ships of the desert, too, said Mamoon. We will sail on them soon. Ah, that's a ship of the desert, Annie said to Jack. Camels, Jack thought. Oh, brother. And that's where we're going to stop for today. See you guys tomorrow.